Welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. Josh and David, just two regular guys with a passion and interest in our unknown and unexplained hidden world. This show delves into the latest sightings, theories, research, and stories in the field of cryptozoology. If you enjoy the show and don't want to miss an episode, please give them a follow and leave them a comment. Let's embark on this journey together and keep an open mind as we explore the mysterious world of cryptid. Hey, welcome to the Society of Cryptid Hunters podcast. We got Josh and David here, and man, we got a show for you today. I think it's going to be a great show, and you're sticking
I
around the
am
whole time.
so excited for this.
I, and it's one thing doing these episodes with you, Dave, over these, I don't know how long it's been now. We've been doing this is like episode 16 or 17, 18. I don't know. But we went over a lot of different topics and in doing research and digging into which I can say now that I am building a cryptozoology database. And it's still a work in progress, When we get done, I'll share all that information later on. But topic today that was something I've never heard of. And after researching this creature or whatever it is, going through the stories, going through the sightings, the everything behind it, all immediately one of my favorites now. This is one of my favorites now. Like I think it
Oh,
goes.
by
It's no
far.
secret. It's no secret that I'm a Mothman fan. There's no secret. I mean, I travel through Point Pleasant, this and that. You heard it on about, I don't know, 70% of our shows. So it's no
Yep.
no secret there.
Yep.
But today we're going to get into the Van Meter Visitor out of Iowa, just around the Des Moines area. I can kind of just set this up for us, and we're going to go on
Before
a
you do that,
yeah.
Josh, how did you find this story, first off? Because I've never heard of this. I have friends from Iowa, but I've never heard of this ever. And
Yeah,
such a cool story. We'll get into the story, but how did
yeah.
this escape both of us for so
You
long?
know, I man, you as much as I've been into cryptids and the stories like this, I don't know how it got by me. The main thing that I found it now was when building the our Facebook group. So if you're listening to the show, shoot us. It is set at private right now, which is basically you can still join. I just gotta David or I just have to approve you after one simple question on there. So it's not too tough. But if you're interested in talking about cryptids, we do post a lot of things going on. And during that process of finding things going on, I came across the Van Meter Visitor, and I'm like, what is this? So I dug into it, and it's kind of how it all started. Yeah. So it's 1903 in the town of Van Meter, Iowa. Early 1900s. There was a man named UG Griffith was walking on his way home, noticed a light on top of the building. Now, he never noticed this light before, and so he investigated. He was curious about this light, so he walked closer to the light, and as he got closer, the light would shine right in his face, like it blinded him. And then he put his head down, looked back up, and it jumped literally from one building on the side of the street to the other, just like that, fast. So, of course, he became more curious of what this is. I mean, obviously, it's not a burglar. First, maybe you thought somebody, but who? I don't know. Did they have flashlights in 1903? I don't know. But they definitely had lanterns. And then as he got closer, it went somewhere else again, somewhere else again. So he was a well-known person in the town. And when he went to tell the townsfolk about this thing he saw, they believed him because he's an upstanding citizen. And he's like, hey, I mean, if I were to go tell someone I saw this day and age, people would think I'm out of my mind. But back in 1903, UG Griffith was somebody that was a person of the town, if you will. So the next night, they had another sighting, and there was a gentleman with the last name of Alcott that actually saw the creature, got close, and could see that it was a bat-like creature. It did have like a foul smell to it, and it had a light that was shining from its forehead, which is interesting. And that's the basic description of what this was. So when these and I'll get to the Alcott situation in a second, but so while these sightings were happening, local businessmen were claiming to see large winged creatures with glowing eyes or the light on their head. It was about 8 feet tall, bat-like wings, a horn on and a horn on its head, which is very descriptive to, I think, something like a pterodactyl or pterodon type. That's how I kind of
Right.
envision it. And if you look up pictures online, do a search for it, that's kind of what you're going to see, something similar to that, other than the light shining from its head. Other pictures showed shining from its horn, things like that. But it did terrorize the town for almost 5 nights. Now, one of the nights was the gentleman last name of Alcott. He was close to the creature, wasn't even paying attention to it. He fired some shots at it. The creature turned its head to his direction, shined a light in his face, let out a giant shriek, and then flew away up into the sky. Gone. So these kind of things were happening. There's another instance where somebody saw it standing on a light post. Now, I wanted to make sure there were light posts in 1900, or I'm sorry, 1903. It's actually was because the first auto streetlight was in Connecticut in 1901, so it could have made it to Iowa at that time. So just so just so we get that clear when it comes to the history of streetlights, I didn't want to get into any arguments with that.
Right.
So so basically, all this happened over the week, and all the townspeople were just fed up with it. So they all went out and they went to this. There's like a coal mine I think they had out in the
Hmm.
outskirts of town, and apparently that's where the creature was living.
Right. Well,
Now they,
what I read is the town was set up because of the coal mine, and that's where the industry came
oh
from.
yeah, yep, it was a coal. Yep, you're right. It was a coal mine. Coal mine. Now, one of the couple stories I did find, it wasn't in every single report, but there was a report that there was a second creature also in the coal mine. So there was,
Right.
and they were living in the coal mine. So of course, they were firing shots. There's a lot of, all it did was just make it emit more of an odor, which I think was probably its, defense mechanism or whatever to emit the nasty smell to keep people away from it. But they were able to get them back into the coal mine, and then they sealed it off. And the Van Meter visitor, or Van Meter monster, some people call it, was never seen again. The interesting thing about this is that the stories did, and when we talk about folklore and stories of cryptids, that the story continued on for years, and it's become just a phenomenon. People love stories. You can go any town now. I post a lot on our pages and stuff of all the events going around. There's a Van Meter visitor festival that occurs.
Which
So
sounds
it's been,
super fun.
yeah, it does actually. So, but I mean, it's been well over what 120 years since the sighting,
Right.
and so people love Van Meter. Other parts of the region, they do go to Van Meter for an annual festival that they have. So they have some really interesting things. I actually got a list of what they do on this festival, which sounds amazing, by the
Oh,
way.
well, oh yeah, let me hear it.
Yeah, so like I said, it's an annual event held in Van Meter, Iowa. It celebrates the town's unique folklore history. It's centered around the legend of the Van Meter visitor, which we talked about was a cryptid sighted in 1903. So the festival includes a variety of activities such as guided monster walking tours. So basically, you're retracing the path of the story.
Okay.
I did go on YouTube and find somebody that recorded these, and they do have a guy with like a megaphone or some sort of PA system where he's walking and pointing everybody in the story where things happen. This is this spot. This is this spot. Pretty cool. I mean, for a geek like me, dude, I would. I'm really thinking about go. I can't make it this year, but I'm really thinking about going next year.
Yeah, I would
I mean,
totally do it. I would
it's
I
like
would
a
100% do it.
yeah, it's like a 12-hour drive for me, but and flights are with
It's
like
like a
Southwest for like
5 day
99
drive for
bucks.
me.
Yeah. They have a paranormal presentation. They have monster themed games, of course, food and drinks. They have like it's like food trucks and stuff come in.
Hmm.
Local craftsmen selling their creations, which if anybody's ever been to one of these cryptid festivals, they got some of the like most random things, stuff that has nothing to do with cryptozoology at all. But people that like cryptozoology, they do like other things that are, and they're all related. It's interesting, but
Hmm.
like like swords, like the Renaissance fair stuff.
It's always swords.
Yeah, you're gonna have your typical fair booths set up, your little flea market type feel, but not. I mean, but it's all to the fantastical, if you will, of what people would be going for. And they also get famous, or I'm sorry, cryptids. I'm sorry, oh my gosh, guest appearances from famous cryptid hunters. So people that are in the community
Like us.
know who these people are, and they go and they talk about the Van Meter monster history and things like that. I'm sure there's book signings and photo opportunities and this and that.
You're really selling. I definitely want to go see this. You're really
Yeah,
selling me on it. There's
yeah,
there is a book out about this,
yeah.
by the way.
Yes. Oh no, I know. Yep, I have. Yep, one I need to get. It wasn't in any of my local libraries here, so I'm probably gonna have to just
Yeah,
order
I yeah, I
it.
read that today and I was like, oh, I wish I would have known this because I probably would have just ordered it.
Are you talking about the book from Chad Lewis?
Let's look. I'd have to look, but
Well, if
yeah,
not, he's got a book and he does have some stuff on YouTube as well. Would be interesting to check out. Probably, I mean, he's the only book I found specifically
there's a
on that.
book from
Chad Lewis, Kevin
uh
Lee Nelson, and Noah Voss.
yeah, that's it.
That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
that was
the
about
Van
the one
Meter
I had.
Visitor, a true and
Right.
mysterious encounter with the unknown. The only known
Hmm.
book that I could find on it. So,
Yeah. It's, I'm definitely gonna buy it though. Especially after this episode. Like it's so interesting. Well, Josh, like what I think is interesting about this is they shot at this thing,
yeah,
and they shot at it, and what I was reading is they would shoot at it and it would shriek really loud,
yep,
and then they would keep shooting at it and nothing happened to it. It would just
right,
scream.
right,
And all of the reports, they all say it smelled
yeah,
and all had an odor, which there's one of our favorites that also has an odor when it is around, and that is the skunk ape.
oh yeah, yep,
That they said that when this thing was around, they would start smelling this odor and then it would appear. What
yeah,
what I thought was really interesting about the first account, the Griffith guy, that's his name, right? Griffith.
yeah,
Can't believe.
mhm, yep,
So he saw it on at the left-hand side of a building when he's walking through the downtown area, and then it flew. So he just sees this light, and it flies to this other side of the building, right?
yep,
And then it goes straight up, or it flies to another building, and then it goes straight up in the air. Which I think was really interesting because the first account of it doesn't talk about a man bat. It talks about a light, which is,
right.
because he almost describes like an orb, which you know what I'm about to get into.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
They were talking. It sounded like alien orbs.
yeah,
Because I can't tell you how many accounts I've read where there's like a ball of light energy that these people account that
yeah. Oh yeah,
moves back and forth and then goes straight up in the sky and then leaves. And that was his first account of it. Um, and then the rest of the accounts. I'll get more into the accounts later, but I thought it was super fascinating that um, all the accounts had this entity shooting light back at them,
right. Yep,
which it's, I mean, at that time, I mean, we're talking about 1903.
right.
Um, I mean, flashlights, I'm assuming weren't accessible. Um,
Correct.
I'm gonna throw my ignorance out there. I don't really think you could even really get. I mean, they did have lanterns. However, they were huge and they're not like what you think a lantern is today. And they're not very bright. It's not like your
It's
LED
well,
light
it's
like you
not that
have
you can
today.
direct to somebody's face.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
you
not a
can't just like
direction of
hold a
light.
lantern up and then aim it at somebody's face. I mean, it's a
Right.
direct beam of light that was coming from whatever this was. Um,
Right. And the fact that it had a horn on its head is also a very distinct um uh description of this being. And the fact that it had a humanoid physique and then it had bat wings. All of the accounts have this cryptid as having bat wings,
Yep,
which is extremely interesting to me.
it is. Yep. Another great part of that when it comes to the characteristics and evidence that, I mean, there's really no evidence other than what the whole town saw. I mean, there's an entire town that saw this thing. How intriguing is that?
Yeah, so there's tons of accounts for it, and one of the accounts is this guy one of the days he goes to the mine, the coal mine, and he experiences two of them outside of the coal mine, and they start shooting at it. They shoot it with there's a bunch of them that are out there. They start shooting at it with guns and shotguns, and again, it it just shrieks. Both of them just shriek, and they notice that it doesn't start hurting them or maiming them at all. And they shriek again, and then they fly back into the coal mine. And at some point, they uh, destroy the entrance of the coal mine, and these things are never seen again. Some
Right.
accounts say that maybe they came out of the back of the coal mine.
Mm.
It was seen more recently. Um, from 1903. There's been several accounts later. Uh, a lot of people have attributed this to like, obviously our one of our personal favorites is the Mothman
Yeah, we'll get into that
because there's a
in a
lot of
second.
similarities to it, and
Right,
there's a lot of similarities to the Thunderbird, of course.
right, right. One thing we didn't cover yet was the incident with Clarence Dunn, who was one of the nights. I don't know if it was the third or fourth night, but he slept in his shop, which I think actually was in the bank. He slept with a shotgun on his lap. He just was
Right.
like, "I'm not having this." And so when he fell asleep about 1 o'clock in the morning, he woke up hearing like a weird noise, like a gargling sound or just rustling. And when he got up, he went to look out the window. It was immediately shined by the light. And he took shots at it, and he could see the creature's face. And then after a while, the light disappeared, and the creature was gone. So the next morning, they did go out and they did find footprints outside of the window. And it was in the I've heard different accounts where it was in the mud or which I guess at the time it would be mud. But there was footprints, and it was distinctly three toes in the mud.
Yes.
Now, I did hear two different accounts that they tried to do plaster casting and it didn't work, was one account. The other account was they did get one good plaster casting, but nobody knows where it's at. So I've heard both. So don't know. Don't know. But there was people that did see a footprint of a three of a like a good size three-toed thing. And the police are the ones that found it. So it wasn't just like some random dude. It was the police. The guy shot, made a report. They went and saw there was something out there, and he shot at it. So that makes the that makes the story even more intriguing. And once I get to that part in it, where I'm like, wow, the police saw something. This is crazy. The whole town's seen it. Everybody smelled it. What is this thing? Like you said, it is similar. There's similar characteristics to the Mothman, like you said, because that was actually known for being tall, winged, humanoid.
Right.
The Jersey Devil's another one.
Right.
Snowford's strange appearance and flying abilities. The Bat Squatch, which I know we never brought up Bat Squatch yet.
Oh, by the way, I was going to bring this up in pop culture. Bat Squatch is a cryptid out of Oregon,
Yep.
and Rogue Dead Guy Ale or IPA. You
Oh yeah.
might have had once
I've had the
before.
old Bat Squatch IPA. Yeah.
It is my favorite beer out of beers. It is absolutely my favorite.
That's a good one. Yep. So that one that shares similarities as well. The Snallygaster, which we never talked about either. I think we brought it up.
Talking about
I think I
Cryptid.
brought it up one time in something, but it's a flying cryptid reported in Maryland. And there's also out of Zambia, which is out of, we normally don't talk about creatures outside of, other than we did our fantastical creature series. outside of
Right.
the U.S. or North America, we don't really talk about. But the Kangamato is another flying cryptid that was reported over in the country of Zambia. So they're
Hmm.
all similar characteristics. They all have flying abilities. Are they the same creature? Are they not? Are they just, being back in 1903? It's late at night. There's not a whole lot of lighting outside. Easily, you can see something and think of it as something else. But
Well, they've also reported that it moved in speeds never seen before back then.
yep, that's true. Yeah, like lightning fast almost, which is insane. But before we get into the pop culture, I think we talked about the book already. There was a there's a few TV shows. I mean, I'm sure whatever you have, we can you can hop on in. But then,
Um,
but yeah,
let's finish up the whole sighting
sure.
part of it. Because there are people from there that believe that this was a demon. Did you look at the pictures of the depictions of this thing?
Yeah, yeah,
I thought it was super cool looking. Like I was like,
yeah,
why don't I know about this? Like, but there was one that looked like it had like this weird sigil thing on its chest,
yeah.
and it had like a cape, but a
No,
cape V thing,
yeah,
and it still had this horn head. Like I thought it was cool. Um,
yeah.
there was
So
some people that disclaimed the local people there, and they're like, oh, well, it must have been a bunch of teenagers that were just, messing around. Um, at the beginning of this, when we were talking about how there's lights that were going between two different buildings, so I read a bunch of things that said that like they said back then, have you ever seen a flying lantern, which is like I call it a bag lantern. It's where you get a candle and you stick it in a paper bag. Have you ever seen those?
like a Chinese lantern.
Exactly like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's exactly what
yeah.
I'm talking about.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Um, so one of the things I was reading is like, oh, it was a bunch of Chinese lanterns. I just think that's I like how
There's
do
no
you
way.
get Chinese lantern into a humanoid bat wing person? Like
Yeah,
that's
there's
a
no.
that's a giant stretch between those two things to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Which Chinese lanterns are super cool, first off. So let's get into pop culture. And then yeah, let's get into pop culture.
yeah.
So
Go for it.
Josh, you like comic books. I like comic books. Have you ever heard of Man Bat?
The Batman villain. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Um, so in the original version of the story, Kirk Langstorm was a zoologist who tried to give humans a bat acute sonar sense, and while he was messing with this, he turned into a man bat. It is one of my favorite Batman villains. It was on the Batman animated series
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
back in the late 80s, early 90s, which is super awesome. And if anybody loves Batman, go back and watch that.
Hmm.
Um, because it was really good and it was actually pretty accurate to the comic books, which I'm really big about like accuracy when it comes to comic books to movies, because like that's one thing that really gets in on my nerves, like when they just like totally butcher the story from the comic book. Because like, I mean, most movies, like when it comes from a movie to a book, like you know, they just kind of like don't even like they completely change the story, and that just completely bugs me, and I don't get it. Um, but that is one of my favorite villains that came out of Batman. And I am about to send you something right now. To send it to you. So today, and I thought this was perfect. So I was at work and I was walking, and some guy walked out of a building that I was walking by, and this other guy was like, "Hey, it's right there," and I was like, "What are you two talking about?" Because they were looking up and they're pointing at something, and that's why this podcast is so perfect because they're like, "Hey, this is this little bat hanging out right here." I was like, I was like, what? I was like, what are y'all doing? And he's like, it's a bat right there. I was like, a bat? Because it was literally, Josh, it was at 13, it was like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And
Yeah.
I look over and it was like so small. It was like, it literally was like the size of a credit card. And
Well,
I look over and I get close and I took those pictures that I just sent you.
yeah.
And I don't know if he's sleeping. He's probably sleeping because it was like during the
Yeah.
daytime.
That's what it looks like it.
I
No,
was
for
like,
sure.
oh, he looks so cute. And I love bats. Like they're one of my favorite creatures. And I wanted to tell you a story, Josh. I was in um Okinawa, Japan, which Okinawa is for people who don't know, Okinawa is an island off the coast of Japan. And um, Okinawa, they don't like being called Japanese. They like being called Okinawan, by the way, when you go there. I was in Kadena, Okinawa, and when I first got there, I think they call it the flying fox. You might have to fact check this on me, but it is literally like 2 feet tall. It is the biggest flying thing I've ever seen. It is literally the size of an eagle, probably, maybe even bigger. Like its wingspan is huge. Like we were going to our hotel and we parked our cars, right? And we get out of our cars and we're just all like hanging out, um, talking in the parking lot, and all of a sudden we see this thing fluttering in a tree right behind our cars, and all of a sudden this thing opens its wings up, and it's this giant bat, and
Huh.
in Okinawa they have these giant bats. When I say they are so big, they call them the flying foxes for a reason. Like, and it's so big, bro. Like its
I see stuff
wingspan,
like that in a zoo. I can't remember what zoo I was at, but I saw some giant bats. I'm like, oh my gosh.
like I've never seen anything like that in my life. When I said I thought I was living in a simulation or something. Like it was so big, bro. Like its wingspan was as long as like I can, um, as long as my hands are from one side to another if I extend them. Like it was crazy. And actually, the guy I was with started screaming. I did not scream. He started screaming, and then it flew off. And man, it was like something out of a vampire movie. It was so,
Wow.
I thought it was
Yeah.
so cool. And I love bats. I think bats are super cool. You're in Texas where you're at. I think Texas is like the land of the bats. There's bats everywhere in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially like Austin when they have the every night they come flying out of the bridge. Everett's a big tourist thing. Everybody just sits there and watches the bats on cue fly out. And then they come back and there's like thousands of them. It's crazy.
This cryptid in Iowa. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of stories now that it's people are starting to see things again. More recently, there's a few TV shows that's covered this too. I don't have the years on these, but they're within the last 10 years. Discovery Channel had one called A Haunting, which is they talked about the Van Meter visitor there. William Shatner's Weird or What had an episode on that as well.
Oh, that
Um,
was fun.
ABC's Scariest Places on Earth. The one I did watch um, was Expedition X, which this episode came out September 8th, 2021. So they talked about modern day sightings. They interviewed some witnesses. Kind of the same thing. People were seeing the same thing. Um, and so it actually built up again in modern day now, more interest of the sightings back in the early 1900s. Expedition X is hosted by none other than Josh Gates, if you remember him from the Destination Truth fame. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, he's well into the unknown world, if you would. So I do enjoy a Josh Gates show. It's always well produced and well made. Whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's mostly folklore and stuff, but he does do some interesting stuff. Destination Truth is a good show. Expedition X, and I think he's got a new one now. Kind of where they, what is this thing? Well, first of all, the things that make it very specific were the sightings that a lot of people in the town saw it. Lot of eyewitnesses to this thing. The next thing was the footprints that were saw by the police.
Right.
Very specific, very specific. Um, if there's a plaster cast somewhere, that's great. But even nowadays, if it, in modern day, I don't think people even take it seriously because it's been so long. So it's kind
Absolutely.
of like out of the question. But the other thing is the specific use of the light. I tried to put a big word in there and it didn't come out right. So, but anyway, the light and how it was direct and how it moved, and then the speed of this thing that the eyewitness also encountered. So, the smell, yeah, apparently all cryptids stink. So we'll just
Yeah.
chalk that up. So, I mean, it's just what it is. Yeah. So if something stinks and it's not you, and it's probably a cryptid. Or if it's your buddy next to you, after
Or it's just a guy
nights of
camping.
beer and brats will do that to you.
Sounds good.
But yeah, yeah. But what could this thing actually be? Well, I mean, they're saying it's large, but and there are other lights, so shadows could play a part, things like that. But the thing that still throws me off is the light coming from the creature.
Right.
I, I
Yeah,
just
me
I
too.
just
Yeah.
cannot put my finger on what that is. Expedition X, the episode, they actually there's a scene they didn't do a whole lot. It's just a probably like a Discovery Channel, if that's even the correct channel, travel channel, one of those deals. You know how these reality shows are. They
Hmm.
actually they show them digging up a hole in the land, and apparently that was the opening of the mine that they went down, and they pulled a couple of big pieces of rock up and said, "Oh, look, somebody was really trying to cover this, make sure nobody got in." And somebody says, "Or something get out." So I'm just thinking, like, did they just dig a hole to tell this story for the show? I don't even know.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
don't believe anything I watch on TV at all anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither.
but that could have just been all set up because really, Josh Gates sends people to Van Meter, Iowa, and they just get a get a backhoe and start digging. I mean, does that happen? Yeah, I don't know. So
Oh well.
I don't know. Again, I do like the story of this. I still think these people saw something. I don't know what it is. I think even the Mothman was said it could have been one of those giant herons or
Yeah, we have them all over the Pacific Northwest. Like they're
yeah,
literally down the street from me. Yeah. And
yeah,
when they fly away, they are huge.
yeah,
Uh, their wingspan is huge, actually. They don't look that big, but when they start flying, it's very big.
yeah. So they're herons. Is that what they are? Blue herons or
Great heron, blue heron. I've heard them called different things.
okay. Yeah, because they were saying that they could have been something like that they saw. And even I was like, okay, but what about the light? You know, I don't know. I don't know about the light.
I
So
don't know, like I was saying earlier, like what I think is cool about it is like that the local people, like there's several accounts where they shot at it and it just screamed and it flew off. I thought that was super cool.
yeah. So whatever it is, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think, I of course I believe with the grain of salt some of these things until there actually is some evidence and proof of something. I enjoy talking about them. I'm always fascinated with the world has that, what was created for us to explore and investigate. So this one is, I mean, this one just shot up in the ranks of one of my favorite stories in the cryptozoology
Oh,
world.
super shot up. And I love the fact that when you start reading about this, like everybody starts bringing up just like the Mothman, that there was a ton of UFO
Yeah, that
sightings.
was up in there too. Like, could it be that, or could it just be a group of people making things up? Maybe they tapped into something that night that was illegal. I
Maybe
don't
it's
know.
aliens.
Who knows? Maybe that smell in town was a gas leak. Wait, they didn't have pipes running through with gas yet, so never mind.
I don't know about that time.
You never
But
know.
I think it's time for the question that you didn't know I was going to ask you.
Yeah, because all of our listeners love this.
Um, what is your favorite Batman character?
The character, like a
Yeah,
villain, or because I mean, if you're gonna say Batman
villain.
character,
What is your favorite Batman villain?
okay, okay. So you got to hear me out on this one because there was a podcast I did years ago where we ranked our villains on the strongest villains. Now, Um, and just to make it quick and easy, the top two were actually Poison Ivy and Clayface, are the two strongest. I believe the two strongest villains, just because the ability to control people. Then Clayface can literally turn to any villain, right?
Okay, sure.
Yes.
All right.
So he can just be whatever. But they never like developed him as being like that. Um, I'm not. I mean, Joker's okay, but I'm not a huge Joker fan.
I'm
Like
not a
I like
huge
the
Joker
Joker,
fan
but I'm
either.
just like it's just Joker, whatever. Um, I don't trying to think what my favorite would be. Like I like the Riddler until Gotham, and that kind of ruined it for me because I didn't really. Yeah, like he was good in the like the character was good, but I just kind
I've
of like
not
man.
watched that show, by the way.
No,
That's
really,
on my list of shows to watch, by the way.
it's pretty good. You get going in that one. It's interesting. Then the other one was what the Penguin is the other. It's kind of like okay, um, just classic, but. I don't know. When it comes down to man, I'm even thinking like '60s Batman right now. Some of my favorites in that, but
And
um,
then I'm about to ask you, what is your favorite Batman movie? Because this is a huge topic currently.
well, the fun thing is I own all of them. I think.
So do I. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't own the newest one, the Robert Pattinson one, on anything. Yeah,
I
I
do actually.
I did really enjoy that movie. I like the Christopher Nolan series a lot. I think The Dark Knight might be my favorite. I think The Dark Knight. I think that's just something
Which
outside
one?
of no Heath
Oh,
Ledger.
okay. So the second one.
Yeah, because it's Batman Begins, Dark Knight
Right.
Rises.
Yeah. Right.
So
Okay.
I think The Dark Knight overall, I think at some point we're not. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't know why it's taking so long, but that's a movie that I think we're gonna look back and say that was one of the best movies in that decade of all time. I mean, it's overall just so well made. Is like you can take Batman out and you got like a great crime movie.
So I'm
It's just
glad
so
you
good.
said that because first off, I love Christopher Nolan. He
Yeah,
is the best director, in my opinion. I think he's the best director ever. You can look at his embodiment of work,
yeah.
absolutely amazing. So if you asked me the same thing I asked you, I would say it was Bane and Azrael, the Nightfall series. The Dark Knight Rises is
Yeah,
basically that whole comic book series.
a bit. Yeah.
Because I've been a Batman fan since I was like a little kid. I have tons of Batman comics. Even when I have Batman comics when he was a detective, when he was Detective Comics Batman.
Actually, I got some signed Batman comics.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow, that's so awesome. Yeah.
yeah. I have some from Nightfall as well, from
Yeah.
one of the
So
artists that worked on it. Yeah,
so
that's pretty cool.
when Christopher Nolan announced that he was gonna have Bane in the last installment of his movies, I was so fanboy, bro. I was
Yeah,
like, this is awesome. This is gonna be awesome. And I thought it was
yeah.
I thought it was great. I thought like, because my favorite part about Batman is when he broke his back and he had to come back up because like
Yeah.
you're talking about Batman, like, as a kid you're like, oh, it's cool as Batman, but Batman got broken and then he had to come back and be better.
Mhm. Now you
And
remember that issue, right? The center page, how when he broke his back, how it like flipped open.
I literally have it, bro.
No,
I
I have
have
it
that
too, for
comic
sure.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, to wrap it up too, just really quick, like this is actually really timely too. So we're gonna get this out a month in advance because, I'm sorry, not a month in advance. We're gonna get out this episode when it comes out. You'll still have time to make it to the Van Meter Visitor Festival, which happens in September. So,
Oh,
so go to their website, Facebook, check it out. I don't have the exact dates, but yeah, you can find it. We don't work for them or anything, so we're not getting, but if you can check it out, by all means, go do it. So.
Josh, you're awesome. This episode was awesome. I'll see you later.
All right. Y'all take care.